Today, my mother died. Maybe yesterday, I don't know. When you hear the name Albert Camus, the first thing that comes to mind is a dark, depressed man, fed up with life, surrounded by cigarette smoke, right? Everyone shares him in their Instagram posts and black and white photos and thinks of him as a nihilist contemplating suicide. But this idea is completely wrong. Camus loved the sun and the sea. He played soccer and was even a goalkeeper. He didn't just observe life, he lived it. If you only see him as a pessimistic philosopher, you'll miss the point he was really trying to make. Dude, if he loved life so much, why is suicide at the center of his philosophy? Contrary to popular belief, Camus was born in a poor neighborhood in Algeria, not France. He lost his father in the war when he was very young. His mother was quiet, hardly ever speaking. There were no words in the house. Life was not noisy, it was heavy. Despite growing up in poverty, he was raised under the Mediterranean sun. The sea, the sand, the soccer field. Camus' world was not abstract, but physical. He contracted tuberculosis at a young age. The idea of death was no longer a theoretical issue for him, but a reality he felt in his body. That is why Camus built his philosophy not in the sky, but on the ground. Camus' fundamental concept, the absurd. Man seeks meaning. The world remains silent. It is from the intersection of these two things that the absurd emerges. According to Camus, philosophy's only serious question is life worth living? If there is no meaning, he asks, why don't we commit suicide? The answer is obvious, because suicide is not facing the absurd, but escaping it. You have heard of the myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus knows the rock will fall again, but he continues to push it relentlessly. According to Camus, true freedom is being able to keep walking, knowing the rock will fall. I think there is something most people miss in Camus' philosophy. This man didn't just think, he also lived. Camus says, I learned morality from football. Remember, he was a goalkeeper. He took the ball to the face, fell down, got up. Life didn't treat him fairly, but he still kept playing. That's what the absurd is really about. Even if the rules aren't in your favor, you never leave the field, right? Because that's the rule of the game. For Camus, the body is no less important than thought. The sun, the sea, sweat, fatigue. These are not enemies of philosophy, they are its foundation. That's why Camus remains faithful to this world he finds meaningless, rather than turning his back on life. Remember, he didn't have an easy life either. He lost his father at the age of 1, his mother was partially deaf and mute, and she had tuberculosis. And this is precisely where the line separating him from Sartre emerges. Camus puts the living human being at the center, not ideology. Sartre, on the other hand, sees humans as tools that can be sacrificed for a cause, and, more often than not, an abstract goal. Now Jean-Paul Sartre takes the stage. For Sartre, history and ideology can be greater than individual morality. The ends justify the means, says Sartre. Camus counters this by saying no ideology is more valuable than a human life. The Rebel is the manifesto of this break. Although Camus defends rebellion, he is absolutely opposed to excess. He wants justice, but not at the cost of using innocent lives as a means to an end. The Algerian War deepens this conflict. Here, Camus utters his famous line, "If I had to choose between justice and my mother, I would choose my mother." This is the line that isolates him, but for Camus, morality weighs heavier than the applause of the crowd. Camus and Nietzsche are often mentioned together. Both accept that we live in a world where God is dead. Both see that man is left alone in an age where values have collapsed. But there is a critical distinction here. If you recall from our previous video, Nietzsche diagnoses this collapse and then says, overcome yourself and create your own values. Become stronger and live dangerously. At least that's the summary. Camus, on the other hand, thinks, but what if not everyone can achieve this? Camus' problem is not human weakness, it is human limitations. He argues that not everyone can be an Übermensch, but everyone can be Sisyphus. Nietzsche emphasizes transcending oneself. Camus, on the other hand, advocates living without abandoning humanity. That's why Camus also sees nihilism not as an end, but as a diagnosis, like Nietzsche. But his ideas on this subject are different. Rebellion instead of power, loyalty instead of superiority. He considers continuing to live consciously rather than escaping to be appropriate. Dude, I still haven't reached a conclusion myself on the difference in thought between Camus and Nietzsche. I agree with Nietzsche's interpretations of slave morality and the Übermensch, but at the same time, I find myself agreeing with Camus' view that not everyone can be an Übermensch. I'm doing a lot of long-term thought experiments on morality, and one of my upcoming videos will be on the philosophy of morality, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it. Camus died in a car accident in 1960 with a train ticket in his pocket and his unfinished novel The First Man in his black leather bag. Do you know what the ironic part is? A man who talked so much about the absurdity and nonsense of life died in one of the most ordinary accidents. Man, isn't that pretty epic? Maybe it can be seen as a kind of confirmation of his philosophy. What do you think? Sisyphus is happy pushing the rock because he doesn't expect meaning from outside. He creates meaning in the act itself. Our question still stands. Do you think it's worth pushing the rock, even knowing it will fall again? Camus' answer is clear. Yes. Because even in an absurd world, life can only be defended when it is lived. There is no other way. See you in the next video.